I'm here with Michael Farber and Graham Cohen of Breakout. Breakout is an event that's aimed at allowing entrepreneurs to have a chance to disconnect, be inspired, and drive change in cities across the country. I'm inspired by these guys. I know you're going to love what they're working on. As always, let's talk about it. How did you guys meet?
So we both worked at a previous company together for 4 years.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
Tech?
No, it was a real estate media company called BizNow.
Okay, nice. And so tell us exactly what you guys do.
I always think the hardest thing about explaining what we do is not using too many cliche buzzwords, but it's impossible not to. And so I guess, excuse me for like how I say this, but it's bringing inspirational people together and then bringing those inspiring people to inspiring cities. So that's kind of the buzzy cliche thing, is bringing inspiring people to inspiring cities.
That's great. What's an inspiring city?
So I guess I'll give you a little like behind the scenes for how we figured out what an inspiring city was. Okay. We started this company 2 years ago with the idea to bring entrepreneurs from all different industries together. And
so not just tech, any industry.
Purposefully every industry, because we felt like tech people hung out with tech, real estate hung out with real estate, fashion. And it just became abundantly clear to us that the more they connect to each other, the more things they could do to positively affect each other. So as you were saying in the beginning, our idea is all about disconnecting people and building relationships. And so we either did the smartest thing we could have done or dumbest thing we could have done, and we chartered an airplane and flew 100 entrepreneurs from New York to Miami. And
that's
so
an inspiring city?
So it's not. I don't think it is at all.
Okay, good.
So, right. And I think that gets us to the point.
To take a step back, we flew them to South Beach, not necessarily just Miami.
Beach.
Miami has actually incredibly inspiring parts to it. South Beach is touristy, 100 miles per hour clubs, bottle service.
So
not that's
Fountain Blue. This is a Fountain Blue.
So really the epitome of South Beach. Like really,
we're all about grit.
Yeah, you got real
South
grit.
Beach. Okay. So it's all, the penthouses at the Fountain Blue, yoga on the beach, wine tasting, art tours, private meetings with the mayor, like the sleepaway camp type experience. And so it was after that trip where we decided,
why did you guys do that? You just did that? That was the first Breakout?
It was the first Breakout. It was to build relationships. And I think we picked Miami because it's a great excuse. People are cold in New York, and it's like, let's go to Miami. And so the idea is,
easy
right?
sell.
And the idea is we're building these relationships, but it's not necessarily that they even believe in what we're doing, but they're like, oh, great,
Miami, woo, yeah,
right. And so once we get them there, then we put all of our Muju and special sauces together, and fun things happen. And so at the end of that trip, people invested in each other. They started businesses. They dated each other. They just generally started hanging out. Post Miami, we decided if we're going to keep bringing these amazing individuals together, what if instead of going to resort type settings, we went to growth cities? Cities like New Orleans, Detroit, Baltimore, Cleveland. And so I give a lot of credit to two friends who convinced us to go to Detroit, where we ended up doing an event later. And I never would have imagined we'd start in South Beach and end up in a city like Detroit. But we went to Detroit, we just immediately fell in love with this energy, this vibe, this opportunity, and the stories. People using entrepreneurism to deal with 50,000 abandoned homes, or people not being able to pay for their water bills. And so the light bulb went off in our heads, and we're like, these are the stories we should share. So these events have become, they're still fun, they're still relationship building, but they're going to cities where we can actually build attachments and learn from local leaders. And so that's a big part of what Breakout does, is highlighting people who have a great impact on their communities. And we do that through events, media, and local memberships.
I love it. So what are the different, what are the roles?
Sure. I would say Graham is definitely much more of the operator, and I'm definitely much more of like the community content person, kind of out there.
Take me into an event.
I think of it, again, like this sleepaway camp type experience where you're all together as a family, but very immersive. It's fun, it's learning, it's relationship building, and it's also, pop-up dinners in churches and, late night parties at restaurants after the closed hours. But anything we can do to create, I think, attachments, shape perceptions, try to reward curiosity, try to crumble that all up into a 48-hour weekend, which is not easy to do.
And we quickly realized that, one, if we wanted to bring a program and actually have people there want to hang out with us that were locals and had a local feel, we had to spend time there. So we spent an insane amount of time in these cities ahead of time, just going to programs, going to lunches, just being in the mix, showing up at community like talks.
Just asking questions.
And just asking a ton of questions.
A lot of questions. So our idea quickly became, can we find local leaders who are already having a positive impact and just be a part of their growth? Can our group make helpful intros? Do we have advice? Do we have capital? And so it's very much like a family, but it can be more thought of almost as your board. And so when we went to Detroit, we picked 5 leaders who I felt like the better they do, the more people they touch in a positive way. And our group surrounded them and were very helpful, like their operations, their future growth.
And so that's the impact. So basically, you hope to leave cities by helping the social entrepreneurs, or I guess it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
a lot of them are
entrepreneurs.
social entrepreneurs, so for sure, or some sort of social benefit.
I think there's a lot of ways we can be helpful, but at like a very like small level, that's like the simplest thing we can do is we can be very actionable and be like, these people are at this point, they touch all these people underneath them. If we can bring them into this group and they can excel, then that's exponentially more change. But I think there's tons of things just about perceptions of the city, people launching new businesses, putting investment dollars. So there's a lot of bigger macro potential, but we try to be very granular and say this is the minimum we can do and spark this relationship.
To what your point, this is what I love about what you guys are doing. I didn't realize this, but almost 80% of small businesses fail in the first 18 months because of 2 reasons. One, access to capital. And then the second piece is they don't know how to reduce to the smallest possible thing that can then really scale. They just don't know how to grow. They don't know how to scale. And so I began to realize, to your point, which is what I love what you guys are doing, big business thinking can help accelerate the growth of these small businesses in such a huge way. And to your point, and I keep telling them, just because you're a small business doesn't mean you need to think small. And when you see how much it can revitalize small businesses, and so to bring entrepreneurs around guys that are having already impact and then accelerating it, that's a beautiful thing.
It's literally city after city after city.
It is, right?
Go that these small business people are like the champions and the heroes, and people are rallying around them, but they need more help and they need more assistance. And it's like small stuff. It really isn't a lot. Like they've got the dream and they've got the passion.
So if I'm an entrepreneur, so just help everybody understand. So I'm an entrepreneur.
Yeah, sure.
I go on this.
Yep.
What do I take away? So you talk about disconnecting. Just help me.
Yeah, I mean, I think the first thing is inspiration, which again is like a cliche buzzword, but I just think it flips your brain in a different way. And so you can see things in a different light, take a look at your own life, what you've been doing, what your priorities are. And so when we've put people in these situations, it's been amazing to see like how they've changed since then. Either starting new companies, living their life in different ways, ending up ending relationships, creating new relationships. And so anybody when that comes on our trip, I just want to make sure that they make at least 10 new friends. And I think those, or maybe not 10, maybe 3 is probably the better one. We'll edit that back. But I think it's all about like creating these relationships and seeing how these relationships lead to future growth.
It's really funny though, because it's like we had a kid who came on our first Detroit trip. I met right before, wild musician, worked at Covenant House, teacher in Spanish Harlem, but like super highly educated kid who came from definitely had a great network and means. But he came on the trip and he just wanted to know what was going on with Motown. And we had this woman who's running kind of all the underperforming schools in Detroit talking about what's going on. So he asked about what was up with the music program. I don't even remember him even asking this, but I guess she was like, we actually got a few recording studios donated. He followed up, ended up going and visiting afterwards, went to like this one school, which is in a very tough part of Detroit, and found this beautiful recording studio and ended up just moving there and becoming a music teacher and teaching the kids like recording. That's like what you do with the event. And then for us as a platform, it's like we're starting to build out our content and media distribution because we want to continue telling these stories to everyone.
And so how are you able to stay connected with the people who attend as well as the cities and like what's...
Our events, there's only so many people that can come to our events. And so
So you limit it?
We limit it. So it's been about 100 people an event. And so a lot of people haven't been able to meet or hear about the people we've been meeting that we, again, think are inspirational. That's my word of interview. So we decided to get into media. So now we're actually writing stories about these people so that the bigger world can learn, hear the story of what people are going through. I think media is our bigger way to scale the business. And then we just talked, or I guess we didn't really bring this up, but we just opened our first space on the Bowery.
So Nolita, okay, in the Bowery.
So we're taking a new innovative take on shared workspace and taking over restaurants that aren't used during the day. They open at 5:30 or 6 p.m. and turning them into breakout spaces. So we have events, can spark relationships.
So I can co-work in that restaurant.
Totally, you can co-work, and membership is like $100 a month versus $500, $600, $700.
Awesome, dude. We also have a proprietary app. So like people around the country can like either sign up for stuff, post stuff. Hey, I'm hiring for this. I'm looking for this investment. I'm going to this conference, like whatever it is.
Yeah.
So like our buddy Sebastian Jackson, who runs something called the Social Club in Detroit. He's a barbershop. He has a partnership with Shinola, and he was doing a barbershop conversation. I forget which city. And so he was like, "Hey guys, do you know from this guy from this VC fund?" Like 7 people answered him like immediately. They didn't even know who Sebastian was, but they just knew he was in the crew. And they're like, "Yeah, like email me, I'll connect you." And he got connected.
So this is a mobile app that connects to the
Totally.
tissue. You guys are growing, so what
It's gonna be funny because you're gonna ask us about like scalability, right? And, like,
No,
things
not scale.
grow.
I don't know. Some things should scale, but yeah. But if you have an answer to it, how are you going to scale then?
Well, I guess my point.
You hit a pain point right there.
I almost think it was like my point was the opposite. I suppose like everybody wants this like magic, like do this, do that, and like all these things will happen. We were the opposite. We took coffees with every single person we've ever invited to an event. So I think we took 1,000 coffee meetings that first year. The worst business is the hardest thing to freaking do, but it's the most important because we actually built this core community that we know. They know us, we know what they do. And so now we're finally in a stage where we're starting to build on top of that. But it probably took us 2 years to build community, start building a brand, and now we're in a situation where we can start executing some of these things to scale. So if this space works well here in New York City, I can see us launching that around our communities in LA, San Francisco, Miami, who knows, DC, Chicago, Detroit. So it honestly took us a lot longer than I would have thought. It wasn't like a switch we turned on. It's just been a lot of like real work and real meeting people and getting this going.
What's the biggest thing that you've learned going city to city to city?
It has to do like education, and that's a bigger subject that I don't think we've been able to tackle yet. But you can see like all these troubles that Detroit is having with education. And I don't know what the effect on that is. It's like a 10-year, 15-year cycle. But even all the great stuff we're doing, like small business this, small business that, it's like, what are you supposed to do if the education is just not there? And it's a whole nother generation of people that I don't think are being like trained properly or learning properly to get to that next level. So I don't know if that was completely answering the question, but I think we've noticed big differences between like Detroit, Baltimore, New Orleans, and especially like Portland, like where it comes to like community and education and also like parental figures, like being role models and things like that. So role models is a big like sticking point, especially of mine. I got another point on this one.
Yeah.
And this might be corny, but literally every city we've been to, I've called my fiance and been like, we're moving to the city. Like, we got to come here. So actually the first time we went to Detroit, it was the first time I felt like, oh, I understand the American dream. Like, you can buy a house, you can start a business.
I agree, man.
And I think being in New York, I've never felt that way. We're small fish in a big pond. When we go to Detroit and Baltimore, it's completely different. We go in there being like, we can be a part of this. And that's this unbelievable feeling.
Some people were probably sitting inside of companies doing jobs, day-to-day jobs like you did, but are a passion, have a dream and an idea, but haven't made kind of what advice would you give?
There's so many people that are like, oh, I hate my job, I hate this, like I'm just gonna start something else. Like, you're not gonna do that until you actually have a community of peers doing it that you can throw ideas off of and share and learn. Like, yeah, let's start a MailChimp newsletter, let's build a website, let's get like $50,000 from friends and family. Like, you need that support group. And so I think the first thing is go to meetups, join breakouts, join, I don't know, any different club where there's people like-minded that are thinking that way. I think that's probably step number one.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. I mean, we actually kind of joke sometimes. We find entrepreneurs that we actually don't understand why they went into entrepreneurship. They're doing something they're clearly not passionate about, but they just want to disrupt something. And so it's like, if you're going to do it, it's all-encompassing, and you really should love what you're doing. So I think there's a lot of opportunities out there, but I think people should just be more open-minded outside of just like, what is the next widget that I can disrupt, but really thinking about like this bigger thing that's going to really make them happy. And if they start thinking that way, they're going to find something to work on that's going to be really meaningful.
Thank you. That was Michael Farber and Graham Cohen of Breakout. I hope to see every single one of you who they allow in there.
Breakout.today.
Breakout.today. And maybe I'll see some of you guys in the co-work space. Where's the co-work space at, the first one?
220 Bowery.
220 Bowery. Hi, Mom. And so, as always, text me 646-759-1837. I'd love to continue the conversation, especially around how we can, as a community, bring more support to small businesses, or if you're a small business owner, how can I help connect you into communities that might be able to add value to you? And let's just continue to talk about it. Thank you.